This presentation is on Daniel chapter 12. It's titled The Time of the Antichrist. I should also point out that in Daniel chapter 12, God told Daniel that his prophecies, and I believe the prophecies of the Bible, would be sealed and closed until the time of the end. Now is the time of the end, and these prophecies are about to be unsealed and opened. In this presentation on Daniel chapter 12, we're going to actually look at just two verses, but these two verses provide some information very helpful to us in understanding about the restrainer who holds back the secret power of lawlessness in the New Testament. And we're going to see a reference that Jesus uses to describe the period of the Great Tribulation. And then we're going to see the mystery, the thing that God has held out for his people. It's called the resurrection of the dead. The time of the Antichrist. At that time, Michael, the great prince who protects your people, will arise. There will be a time of tribulation, such as not happened from the beginning of the nations until then. But at that time your people, everyone whose name is found written in the book, will be delivered. Multitudes who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake. In this first sentence of Daniel 12:1, we're told that at that time Michael, the great prince who protects your people, will arise. So Michael arises, and that's Michael the Archangel, and the word for arise in the Hebrew is a call to action. At the bottom of this slide, you're going to see two verses, 2 Thessalonians 2:7 and Revelation 12:7, that also reference this particular event at the time of this passage, which addresses the beginning of the Great Tribulation. This is a mystery that Paul put forth in 2 Thessalonians, talking about the one who holds back the secret power of lawlessness until he is taken out of the way. After Michael arises, there will be a time of tribulation, such as not happened from the beginning of the nations until then. We know that this is a reference to the time of the Great Tribulation, because when Christ was telling his disciples about the time of the end, he used almost these same words when he described and identified this as the Great Tribulation. Christ used many of Daniel's prophecies in his descriptions. So after Michael arises, and we see the period of Great Tribulation, we're told that at that time your people, everyone whose name is found written in the book of life, will be delivered. Multitudes who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake. This will be the resurrection of the dead. So we see an event that seems to start the period of the Great Tribulation, then the Great Tribulation is identified, and then we see the resurrection of the dead after the Great Tribulation. So in all of Daniel's prophecies, we see a clear picture of the Antichrist rising to power, persecuting God's people until Christ returns and delivers his people in the resurrection, as we have seen in Daniel chapter 12. The resurrection of the dead and God's deliverance of his people always takes place after this time of great tribulation. But don't believe me and my interpretation. Refer to the Bible yourselves and see what it says. Don't be a follower of man.